I'm Larry McCoy, and I will be your host for the latest edition of the Virtual Classroom. And today we're going to talk about team culture. Now, these are two words that have been put together, and many different connotations and adaptations have been talked about with the term team culture. So what really defines team culture? What are we talking about, especially in a military sense? What defines team culture? Well, basically, the definition is that it purposely shapes the values, beliefs, and the behaviors, and it defines how people interact and work together. So basically, it's a mindset that actually determines how people interact with each other, how they work together to get the mission done. So the idea behind team culture is that the strong organizational culture actually helps engage, innovate, and creates an overall success of the mission. Without a true team culture, without everybody on board, when it comes to team culture, when it comes to the success of the mission, everybody needs to be on board and have buy-in. Otherwise, the mission may suffer because of it. So we want to create an environment across the Air Force within units that, number one, people want to work. They want to come to work, they want to do the job, they want to do the best that they can, they want to be a teammate, and they want to be part of something bigger than themselves. Next is we want to grow team members. So the whole idea behind team culture is the fact that somewhere along the way, senior leaders will either retire or move on or whatever the case may be. We need to take it upon ourselves to actually take the members that are with them, okay, that they supervise and they mentor, and grow them to the next level so they can take that spot once that person retires or whatever the case may be, with seamless transaction into that. We also want to create an atmosphere where great performance is the norm, where people are proud of the work that they do and they're proud that they're serving their military and the public of the United States. And finally, the mission gets accomplished, which is, again, when it comes down to it, the one thing that we need to make sure that happens. So one of the examples I like to use with this particular lesson is a 5th Special Forces Group Fire Team. I by trade am Special Operations Weather. I'm retired active duty. And one of the things I got the opportunity to do is work a lot with the Army and the Marine Corps. And the Special Forces fire teams, I actually got the opportunity to accompany some of these fire teams on missions. And they are the prime example of team culture and teamwork and how to get the mission done. So what makes them so lethal as a team? Okay, so I'm going to show you a short video that you can actually see them in action. All right, so again, we go back to the question, what makes them so lethal? So if you take a look, when they walk through that door near the end of that video, when they walk through that door to clear that room, each man knows exactly what the man in front of him is going to do and what the man behind him is going to do. And they all react in kind because they have trust in each other that they'll actually do what they're supposed to do for their position to clear the room. So what makes them so lethal is the fact that they work so well together as a team, and they automatically know what the other person is going to do based on the fact that they've worked together so much, and they have a team culture of success and making sure that they protect each other. So in actuality, a healthy and positive team culture is essential for achieving your goals, maintaining a productive, satisfying work environment. And that's what it comes down to, because very honestly, if you have a satisfying work environment for your people, they are going to be productive and they are going to achieve the mission and the vision of your unit.
I seem to be someone who a lot of these organizations bring in to help them build winning teams. So I've worked with a lot of NBA teams, NFL teams, college teams, corporate teams, school teams, you name it. I love working with teams. And one thing I know is that a united team is a powerful team, that a positive team is a powerful team. So what I want to talk about today is the power of one team. one united, positive team, and the difference that a team can make when they truly come together, work together, serve together, and then ultimately have an impact together. And one team starts with one culture. It starts with having one culture, because if you work for an organization and you have multiple locations and you even have a lot of people in your organization, you don't just have one culture, you have many cultures. So it's so important to have the many cultures and the many locations become one culture. Southwest Airlines has multiple locations, right? They have multiple flight attendants. So if you have a bad experience with one person, one location, one gate agent, that affects the entire culture. So the job of a leader is to make sure that that one culture that we have, that we define, is ultimately the culture that is ingrained in everything we do, in every person in our organization, in every location. It's not easy, but we must create one culture. And to create that one culture, we must first identify what we stand for. What are we all about?
And I don't think anyone could have said it any better than John Gordon there in that video. So basically, we have to create a team culture, and it's built on shared values. And those shared values, our mission and our vision, guides that team's actions and decisions. And all of the values of each team member should align with the broader values, those organizational values, and support that team's mission and objectives. So ladies and gentlemen, this works from the top bottom. So we have to basically set our values and our mission statements to support the team's mission and objectives. And then that needs to be promoted downward from the highest individual to the lowest individual along the chain of command. And one of the best ways to do this, ladies and gentlemen, is through communication. Effective communication is at the core of a positive team culture, okay? We have to be able to communicate with each other openly, honestly, but respectfully, okay? To better equip to resolve conflicts, share ideas, and then work as a cohesive unit. I just spent the last few days with the 132nd out of Des Moines, Iowa. And one of the things that we talked about was communication in length. And very honestly, when I go to a lot of units and I ask what one thing seems to be suffering with that unit, a lot of the units pretty much say that it's communication. So communication is at the core of a positive team culture. You have to be able to communicate with your people openly, honestly, but respectfully to make sure that they are working cohesively and they know what the mission and the vision is for that particular unit. The next key aspect is trust. Trust, ladies and gentlemen, is vital in any team culture. Team members have to be able to trust each other to do their part, to keep their commitments, and to be open and honest with them. Okay, we'll go back to the 5th Special Forces Fire Team. They have to trust each other, that they know by practice and by the fact that they communicate with each other. When they break that door open and they go through to clear a room, that the first man is going to go right and the second man is going to go left, the third man's going to go down the middle. And they know this is going to happen because they trust each other to do so. If anything besides communication is important in today's society, it's trust. Your people have to be able to trust you. You have to be able to trust them. You have to be open and honest with them. Make sure they keep their commitments, so accountability, but be open and honest and communicate with them. But you have to trust them, and they have to be able to trust in you. The next is collaboration. So a team culture that encourages collaboration and cooperation allows people to work together to achieve those common goals. Okay, it pulls the resources and their skill sets. One of the things that I tell many different people when we talk about this is that when I first joined the Air Force many years ago, the average airman had a high school diploma. Now we have airmen coming in with master's degrees or even more, a higher degree level than that. Today's airman is more educated, more well-informed of the things that are going around them. And we need to make sure we tap into that, okay, and use those skills and resources that are available to us at all levels. The old days of, oh, they're just an airman, they don't know what they're talking about, are over. Okay, so you have to be able to trust in your airmen and you have to be able to communicate with them okay, to make sure that you work together to achieve those common goals. Believe it or not, they may have some really good insight on how to make things better, how to change skills, what resources are available to them, and actually make that a part of the collaborative process. That promotes a healthy team culture. Next is accountability. It's a word that's thrown around a lot, but it actually has a lot of meaning to it. Team members have to be held accountable for their actions and the responsibilities that they are given. This promotes accountability to make sure that the team members take ownership of their work. I use the Navy SEALs, SEAL team as an example of this. Before the beginning of every mission, the Navy SEAL team, that before they go out on a mission, will actually have a pre-mission brief where everyone in that team or on that team has a voice. They can actually express concerns, they can discuss what's going to happen on that mission, and everybody has an equal standing. Then they go and complete the mission, they come back from the mission, and they have a post-brief. And that way, they go back and they say, okay, what happened, what didn't go right, what didn't go wrong, what can we change? But every man on that team is held accountable for their actions. And that promotes that accountability to make sure they're informed and they take ownership and pride of what they do. The next one is adaptability. I talk about adaptability a lot when it comes to narrative writing, and it comes with the mindset that we in the Air Force have now. Adaptability, we are wanting to create an action order, multitask, multi-purpose airman in today's Air Force that can do many different things in that fast-paced work environment. Teams also need to be adaptable, just as individuals do. So we want a culture that embraces change, okay? Not to be afraid of change, but embraces change and encourages learning that helps that team stay relevant and responsive. Because very honestly, in today's world, we don't have the luxury of falling behind. We have to keep our teams vigilant, and we have to keep them up to date and responsive to the situation in today's environment. The next one is leadership. I cannot go on about how much leadership within a team plays a significant role of shaping its culture, because the leader shapes or sets the tone for the team and models the desired behaviors of that particular team. It's always been said that people do not do what leaders say, they do what they do. And that is a very true statement. They emulate, or the leader is expected to model the desired behaviors every day of what they want the team to actually do and set that tone for the team, okay, to make sure those desired behaviors are met. But leadership is paramount. They play a significant role in shaping the culture from the top down. So that's why I said earlier when I talked about buy-in, everybody from all aspects of the chain of command needs to be tied in to shaping the culture based on the mission and the vision statements of a particular unit. Those leaders actually set the tone for the rest of that team on down to the lowest ranking airmen and all the way up and down the chain. And again, they need to model those desired behaviors, okay? If they're going to talk the talk, they need to walk the walk, in other words. So leaders in team culture, leaders set the tone through their actions, as I just said, okay? One of the things that a leader must learn very quickly is they have to be transparent, ethical in nature, and respectful. And if they are, that team is more likely to respect those values. You as a team member will have a higher respect for your leadership if they model their actions, if they are transparent in nature, and if they follow the rules ethically and respectfully. One of the things, one of the things that we talk about in the communication lesson is the fact that you need to be clear, concise, to the point, and be right the first time. We know in the military that a lot of times there are some instances where you can't share all of the information, especially higher leadership just knows things or has things going on that they can't share with other people, and that's understood. But as leaders, if we can share the information with the people that work for us and that we supervise and mentor, we need to be able to do so and make sure that we're transparent and ethical in nature. So we need to make sure that we're telling them everything that we possibly can tell them without sharing what they can't know, okay? Conversely, if a leader tolerates toxic behavior or inconsistency in that idea, okay, it becomes the cultural norm. Toxic behavior is exactly that word. It is toxic. It's like the proverbial bad apple in the barrel. If one person is allowed to do it, then it's going to lead to other people doing it. So a leader cannot tolerate toxic behavior or inconsistency from person to person within that team, because that will become the cultural norm, which is what you don't want. Again, people do what leaders do, not what they say. Leaders also define what behaviors are encouraged, accepted, or discouraged. Okay, so again, we as leaders, we set the tone on what is acceptable, what is not, what is encouraged to do, what is not encouraged or discouraged in that case. And we also are expected to articulate the team values. And we articulate those team values through collaboration, innovation, and accountability. So we use those team values that are in the 10 Airman leadership qualities to go through and articulate the values of that team and the importance of those values to that team and accomplishment of the mission. They also embed those values in daily decision-making and conversation processes. So basically, you're living the team values. You articulate and you live by the team values. And a leader that does not do so is ineffective. So leaders also influence how the information flows. A leader has to be open-minded and open to interpretation. Some of the things that you have to ask about yourself and other leaders that you work with is, do they encourage open dialogue, feedback, or idea sharing? We as leaders, we influence how information flows. If we are not receptive to feedback, even if it's critical feedback, and idea sharing, if we do not have an open dialogue with our people, they will not come to us with ideas or give us feedback. One of the things when I was active duty, I am since retired, but one of the things that I did as active duty is I told my people, you can say anything to me behind a closed door, okay? If I am not respecting what you have to say, please tell me so. Please have an open dialogue with me. If I am doing something inappropriate or if I'm doing something that you don't believe is correct, let me know, give me feedback, and I will work to alleviate that problem. We need to also be able to share ideas. Again, today's airmen are more informed, they're more educated or highly educated, and they need to be able to share ideas on the way that we do things for tomorrow's Air Force. Another question that you can ask yourself is, do you operate top-down with limited transparency? So that goes right back to encouraging the dialogue and the feedback. We have to be transparent in nature. Believe it or not, our people know that, and they recognize if you're not being that, and they will respond to it in kind. So we need to make sure that we're as transparent as we possibly can be, again, not sharing information or knowledge that we're not supposed to. But we need to be able to share transparently as much as possible, okay? Communication culture often mirrors the leadership style. So in other words, what that means is it goes right back to open dialogue. So the culture of communication, does it move up and down the ladder, okay? Is everyone receptible to feedback, okay? Is there open dialogue from person to person throughout it? Okay, so that communication culture mirrors the leader's style of leadership. One of the things I like to talk about is Colin Powell wrote a book many years ago that was called The Powell's Principles. And one of his principles in the Powell's Principles was basically this. He said, the day that your soldiers quit coming to you with their problems is the day that you've lost them. And that's a very true statement. That's a very true statement. If they do not feel comfortable coming to you with feedback or open dialogue or want to share an idea with you as a leader, okay, that limits that transparency, it limits how the information flows, and therefore the unit suffers because of it. A leader also is looked at how they respond in tough times defines that culture, okay? Leaders who respond to tough times or adversity with a calmness, fairness, and consistency will build credibility and stability within that particular team. That's what the team is looking for. You are the leader of the team. They are expecting you to respond with calmness, fairness, and consistency across the board. Now, inside we may be freaking out, but again, outwardly we need to be able to show that we're calm, fair, and consistent across the board when it comes to that. This will build large amounts of credibility and stability within your team. Another thing that leaders do is they foster a culture of learning, reflection, and evolution. So in other words, one of the things we want to do, okay, like I said, we're shaping that multi-purpose, multitask, multifaceted airman in today's Air Force. To do that, we have to be able to foster a culture of learning, reflection, and evolution across the board. So when they have the opportunity to learn new things, we need to nurture that. We need to make sure that we give that opportunity to them so they can learn and reflect. We also need to invite team members to help shape and improve the culture together. One of the things I teach is narrative writing. And one of the things in narrative writing and actually writing the enlisted performance brief is the proficiency levels. And in the proficiency levels, it goes from needs improvement all the way to exceptionally skilled. And in exceptionally skilled, there are words in there like innovate and adapt and invite, okay? So we need to make sure that we give team members the opportunity to help shape and improve that culture together. So in other words, give them the opportunity to grow, give them the opportunity to give input, okay, feedback, whatever the case may be. This will allow them to grow as a leader, as an emerging leader, to someday take the place of someone who leaves or retires or whatever the case may be. And that's what ultimately we want to do. We want them to grow to the next level, and we want to make sure that we're mentoring and coaching them to help shape them in a positive culture. So leaders just don't influence team culture, they embody it. And I think I've said that a couple of times now. Okay, so leaders just don't influence what the team culture is, they have to embody team culture. They have to show that they are part of the team culture and that they embrace the team culture. They're the daily example of what's acceptable, what's rewarded, and what matters. So in other words, again, we go back to the statement, people don't do what leaders say, they do what they do. Okay? So we need to make sure that we as leaders, we are embodying that team culture concept, and we are actually showing what's acceptable and what's rewarded and what's not, and what matters and what's not, okay, to make sure that the mission is being complete. So what it comes down to in a nutshell, so when we build a positive team culture, that requires active involvement of all team members and leaders. Again, from the top down. We need to make sure that we are giving people the opportunity to excel. We need to make sure that we're giving them the opportunity to grow, to nurture them, to coach and mentor them to the next level. We also need to make sure that we as leaders, we are at the embodiment of a positive team culture. Because again, okay, it starts with defining and reinforcing those team values and norms, and then maintaining them over time. This isn't a fly-by-night thing. This is a long-haul type of thing. The team, from generation to generation of airmen, we want to make sure that that positive team culture moves from generation to generation to airmen, and as those emerging leaders come up to the next level, they are embracing those same culture characteristics that the ones before them did. Team culture can have a profound impact on a team's performance, job satisfaction, and overall success. Believe it or not, a team that works together, that actually wants to come to work, they want to do the job, they want high performance as the norm, are going to be unstoppable. And that's what we want. We want a team culture that creates that type of atmosphere. We want someone to go in and say, okay, we can do this. This is the team culture. We're going to be positive in nature. Here's what the idea is behind the mission and the vision, and here's how we're going to achieve success. So that pretty much is a quick and dirty of the team culture concept. The biggest things I want to leave you with today is number one, okay, team culture is infectious. It really is. If you have a few people that start the team culture, especially from the leadership role, and they show that they're interested in it and they embody the values all the time, people are going to gravitate towards that, because people join the military for a reason. They really did. They want something bigger than themselves. They wanted to be part of a group. And that's where we come in as leaders, is we take that to heart and we embody those core values, and we embody the 10 Airman leadership qualities, and we embody those things that make the team culture run and make sure the mission is successful. Number two, take care of your people. Take care of yourself and take care of your people. Because very honestly, one of the things that people look at as for leaders and looking at leaders is the fact that they want leaders to care about them. And I'm not talking about in a kumbaya way. I'm talking about more of show interest in them. Show that they matter to the group, to the team itself. Each person has a voice. Show them that they are part of something bigger than themselves. And every team member has the same amount of say-so and input that anyone else does. So I'd like to thank you for joining me today. A little side note, for anyone who is taking part of the Leadership Certificate Program, our online program, as of June 30th, we are changing our learning management system to a new, more robust system. So we will send out information to everyone of the new LMS and what the website is for that. But as of June 30th, the old website will be shut down, and hopefully the new website will be up and running, so it will be a seamless transition between the new one and the old one that we're moving away from. So I'd like to offer, if anyone has any questions or anything before we sign off for today. All right, very good. Again, thank you for your time. I love doing this. I love talking about leadership with generations of current and future leaders, and I hope you really gained something from this today. Again, a quick and dirty, about 30 minutes worth of information, but it's really something to think about. And really, with the team culture, it's something that we need to go through and embrace, and we need to make it part of our individual culture to make sure that we're making sure that it's part of the team culture. So thank you for your time, and tune in for the next edition of the Virtual Classroom.